who is here represented by Professor Oludele Awodele. I also like to recognize the presence of the University Bossa, Dr. Folorunsho Ilesami Akonde. My pleasure to also recognize the presence of the Director of Students Affairs, Pastor Dr. Sunday Audu. I also like to recognize the presence of the university pastor who just offered the opening prayer, Professor Ife Eyoga. I had earlier recognized the presence of provosts and deans of the schools and colleges that we have here. Please permit me, Mr. President, Vice Chancellor, to recognize a list of other very eminent, esteemed guests who are seated here with us. It's my honor and pleasure to recognize the presence of His Royal Highness, if he's here present, His Royal Highness Kabiyesi Orangu Okeila, Oba Dr. Adedokun Abolarin of Okeila, Ade Aroye Kinye 1. Please pardon me if I got the pronunciation wrong. My sincere apologies. We recognize your presence if you are here. We also like to recognize the presence of Oba Abdul Wahab Olukayode Oyedotun Bibire 1, represented by the Elomona Chief Adidapo and Orangu senior chiefs who are here present. We also like to recognize His Royal Highness Oba Olufemi Ogunleye Olowude Owu. My pleasure, Kabiyesi. My pleasure to also recognize Kabiyesi Oba Kole Ojutalayo Laroka Wanikin. Our pleasure to also have you here. Please permit me to also recognize the presence of Ambassador Yemi Farumbi, former ambassador to the Philippines. My pleasure to recognize Professor Tunde Adeniran, the former Minister of Education. I am honored to recognize His Grace Gabriel Leke Abegunrin, Archbishop of Oyo, represented here by Reverend Father Francis Aderibigbe. Please join me to recognize the presence of Professor Eyitope Ogunbodede, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of Obafemi Awolowo University. We also recognize the presence of representatives of Methodist Girls High School, Yaba, Lagos. I also recognize the presence of representatives of the Nigerian Law School class of 1988. Permit me, Mr. President, Vice Chancellor, to recognize Mr. Benga Adefaye, the Editor-in-Chief of Vanguard Newspapers. Is he here? Okay. I'd like to recognize Professor Kayode and Professor Mrs. Catherine Falade. Please join me to also recognize Dr. B.G.K. Ajayi, the proprietor of Ojulowo Eye Clinic. I also recognize the National Association of Catholic Lawyers, led by the President, Chief Samuel Agbola. My pleasure to also recognize representatives of Society of St. Paul Catholic Seminary, Bodija, Ibadan. May I recognize Honorable Justice Olaiwola of Oyo State. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. I also recognize His Royal Majesty, Oba Professor Aderibigbe Olomola, the Arapanata of Itebu, Kumi Kingdom. Please pardon me for a sincere appreciation to you, sir, for coming to be part of this very great event. I also like to recognize every other distinguished guest here present, all associate vice presidents here present, our directors, our heads of departments, every faculty, students, and staff. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this point, it is my pleasure to give his introductory remarks and read the citation of our distinguished inaugural lecturer, the Vice Chancellor of Babcock University, Professor Ademola S. Tayo.
Good afternoon to you all. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Deputy Vice Chancellor Management Services, the University Registrar, the University Librarian, Provost of Schools, especially the School of Law and Security Studies, all other Provosts, Deans of Schools, Heads of Departments, particularly Head of Department of Jurisprudence and Public Law, erudite professors and members of Senate that are here this afternoon, members of the academia that are here from this university and beyond, my Lord Temporal and Spiritual, the Royal Fathers that are here this afternoon, faculty and staff of the School of Law and Security Studies, students of the School of Law and Security Studies, gentlemen of the press, members of the family of the inaugural lecturer of today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to warmly welcome you to the 46th inaugural lecture of Babcock University. As I always say, inaugural lecture is a rich tradition in universities worldwide, and every university worth its salt must engage in this very, very important practice. It's a time when a professor who had worked tirelessly and had reached the peak of the career, we have to give account of his or her stewardship, account of his or her research endeavor over the years, all simplified for every era to be able to comprehend, and that to be done within 1 hour. So it's such an Herculean task, and we want to thank God that this is the 46th inaugural lecture of Babcock University. This will be the 4th of its kind from the School of Law and Security Studies. We have had 3 before from this School of Law, of which 3 came from the Department of Private and Commercial Law. But today, we're going to have the 4th inaugural lecture from the Department of Jurisprudence and Public Law. So without much ado, I want to invite the inaugural lecturer of today to approach the podium as I read the citation. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. Young Titilayo Oyenihun Aderibigbe's journey is a testament of our unwavering commitment to education and the pursuit of knowledge. Young Titilayo was born in Olode, Ile-Ife, to the family of engineer Aderibigbe and Princess Mojirade Oyenihun on the 11th of February 1960. She began her academic journey at African Church Primary School before relocating to the United Kingdom, where she attended Gillespie Primary School in London. Titilayo then proceeded to the Star Cross Comprehensive Girls High School in Highbury, United Kingdom, where she completed Form 3. Her early education in London laid the foundation for a lifelong dedication to learning. Upon returning to Nigeria in 1973, Titilayo completed her secondary education at the Methodist Girls High School, Yaba, Lagos, and pursued her A-level at the same institution in 1979. Titilayo gained admission to the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, where she studied English education, graduating in 1982. She then proceeded for her National Youth Service Corps at the Faculty of Social Sciences, serving as an administrative officer too, to the Dean, Professor Omalade Aderibigbe, from 1982 to 1983. Upon completion of her National Youth Service Corps, she made a pivotal decision to switch to her initial passion or career choice, which is law, with the encouragement of her husband. Titilayo, overcoming medical challenges and setbacks, she earned her LLB law from Obafemi Awolowo University in 1987 and was subsequently called to the Nigerian bar in 1988. Subsequently, the inaugural lecturer of today joined the chambers of Are Afe Babalola, Emmanuel Chambers, and in 1997 pursued a Master of Law, LLM, at Obafemi Awolowo University, graduating with distinctions in 1999. Let's give her a round of applause for that. It's not easy to earn distinctions. Our association with the Social Sciences and Reproductive Health Research Network showcased our dedication to addressing reproductive health issues through academic research. In 1999, she became the inaugural Director of the Legal and Special Duties Department at the Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research, NISA. Concurrently, she served as an adjunct lecturer at Obafemi Awolowo University from 2006 to 2008. Taking a study leave from NISA, she proceeded back again to the United Kingdom, where she earned a PhD in law from the University of Kent in 2006. Professor Aderibigbe, and I'm now switching from Titilayo to Professor Aderibigbe's academic journey, continue with her appointments as a visiting lecturer at Osun State University College of Law in 2010. She later resumed the role of head of the Department of Business Law and sub-dean. However, in 2013, she joined Babcock University School of Law and Security Studies, where she remains a distinguished faculty member, and I can adequately attest to that. A woman of many parts, Professor Titilayo Aderibigbe is a queen of Ile-Ife, a princess of Ile and Ilaorangun respectively. She holds the hereditary title of Obalogbo Obìnrin Ilaorangun literally translated as the Royal Princess of Ilaorangun. Ladies and gentlemen, I have here standing before you this afternoon our inaugural lecturer of today, Professor Titilayo Oyenihun Aderibigbe, as she will deliver the 46th inaugural lecture of Babcock University, titled Law's Engagement with the Human Body, Searching Through the Prism of Law to Shape the Future. Join me in welcoming to the podium our inaugural lecturer of today, Professor Titilayo Aderibigbe.
The President, Vice Chancellor, the Senior Vice President, Deputy Vice Chancellor, all other Vice Presidents and Associate Vice Presidents, the University Registrar, the Provost, Dean, School of Law and Security Studies, all other Provosts, Deans, including the Provost, College of Postgraduate Studies, the Head of Departments of Jurisprudence and Public Law, all other Heads of Departments, professors and members of Senate, faculty and staff of the School of Law and Security Studies, all other staff and faculties of Babcock University, all other students of other faculties here present, gentlemen and ladies of the press, members of my family, distinguished gentlemen and ladies. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I am humbled to stand here before you all to present the 46th inaugural lecture. I am also grateful to the former and present Provost Dean, School of Law and Security Studies, Professors Deji Olanrewaju and Dorcas Odunaike, and to you and Babcock University for today's inaugural lecture. To be given the privilege to present an inaugural lecture marks the beginning of an academic's attainment of their promotion to the rank of professorship. An inaugural lecture is an auspicious occasion for the university to acknowledge the appointment or promotion of new professors or even the old ones and introduce them to the academic community and non-academic community of the university, and also to provide an opportunity for engagement with the greater community. Therefore, an inaugural lecture is given to the academic and non-academic community to highlight the travails of the inaugurate in the world of academia that has led him or her thus far. Though my professorship was attained in 2020, it is not so new, but it is significant. For me, 41 years of leaving university and 35 years after my call to bar. As for me, it has been grace upon grace all the way, because God has made the seemingly impossible possible for me at every step of the way. To God alone, I give all honor and glory. This is the fourth inaugural lecture to be presented for the School of Law and Security Studies. The first inaugural lecture was presented by the intellectual property oracle himself, Professor Bankole Sodipo, SAN, on the 17th of November 2015, titled The Oracle, Intellectual Property and Allied Rights, the Knowledge Economy and Development Agenda. This was followed by the banking guru himself, Professor Pius Deji Olanrewaju, on the 7th of April 2022, with a paper titled Secured Credit Transaction, Imbroglio, the Pathology and the Therapy. Another intellectual property guru, Professor Ayoyemi Lawal Arowolo, gave her own inaugural lecture on the 6th of October 2022, titled Culture as Creativity and Law, Indulging in the Present for the Future of Copyright Industries in Nigeria. The three previous inaugurates came from the Department of Private and Commercial Law. I have the singular honor of being the first to give this inaugural lecture from the Department of Jurisprudence and Public Law. I doff my hat for my head of department, Professor Olubukola Olugasa. This is your day also. Mr. President, Vice Chancellor, sir, today's inaugural lecture is titled, Law's Engagement with the Human Body, Searching Through the Prism of Law to Shape the Future. It is a journey of my work with the law and its constant search to midwife the totality of the human body. My romance with fairness, justice, and the process of human mind to shape the world started when I could hardly understand the laudable principles myself. Both my father and my mother at different times told me the story of how, as a child of barely 4 years old, I settled their very first quarrel. My idyllic world was shaken when I saw the two most important people in my life arguing, which had never happened before. Both my parents told me that I went to my father and sat on his lap. I asked him to give me toro. This would be the equivalent of 5 kobo today. He asked me what I wanted to do with the toro, and I said I wanted to buy akara, bean cake, for both of them, so they will not argue again. This brought rancorous laughter from both of them. Dad gave me the money, and I did exactly what I wanted. From that time, I became the mediator between them until my mom went to be with the Lord on February 9, 2023. The Lord himself said in Psalm 8:2, out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants, you have ordained strength. My adventure with the interrelationship of law and human mind started with my affiliation with the chambers of Afe Babalola, SAN and Co. in 1988, where I was an associate. For some reason, Are Afe Babalola gave me many matrimonial cases to handle, even though I attended court in other areas of the law with him and my senior colleagues in chambers. In those days, we had the best of his attention and tutelage. We did not leave chambers until 9 p.m. every day. Chief Makanjo Oloesan took me under his wings to attend to many memorable cases in the late 1980s and early 1990s. I became keenly aware that even during acrimonious divorce settlements, women made choices based on their emotions and their love for their children and family, while men were more pragmatic in using the law to achieve justified social personal solutions. My observation from handling of matrimonial proceedings showed that women usually sought for a decree of separation, while men often wanted an outright clean break of divorce. Women usually held back in taking their pound of flesh from their estranged husbands, even when the law could help them get even more material assets as compensation for the sacrifice of nurturing a family and not holding down a tangible dog. In a particular case, the husband decided to divorce his wife and leave her with nothing. During the divorce proceeding, he even put padlocks on the fridge and the store and measured the amount of gari, rice, and beans his wife and 3 children would eat each day whenever he traveled for weeks on end. Trying to make the wife accept that we could attach his salary during the petition so that they could have at least food to eat was ignored because she did not want her man stigmatized at work, and prayed to God that he would change his ways. This never happened. Law could have come in to alleviate her suffering, but the feminine human mind did not want that interference from the law. Therefore, she and the children bore the suffering through the years the case lasted. Some years down the line, this same husband will come back to the discarded wife when his health failed and he needed health care in later years. The rejected stone thus became the cornerstone. Empirical research and law. I became keenly interested in different aspects of the interrelationship between law and medicine and healthcare when I became a member of the Social Sciences and Reproductive Health Research Network, simply called the Network, in 1997 in the University College Hospital, Ibadan, headed by the late Professor Babatunde Oshetimehin. The group consisted of academics from all spectrums of the academia, nutritionalists, agriculturists, psychologists, etc. We carried out empirical research in all aspects of human endeavor all over Nigeria. These researches further reinforced my observation that while law may dictate the black letters to guide social cultural norms, acceptance or non-acceptance of the human mind to these laws determined the law's success and efficacy to control society. Thus, my resolve to do my PhD in the area of medical law was sealed. Mental health and lost engagement with the subconscious. The World Health Organization's constitution states that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. An important implication of this definition is that mental health is more than just the absence of mental disorder or disabilities. It is a deliberate outward manifestation of the inner workings of the mind, which could have been instigated by the physical, biological, social, and economic indices of extant experiences in life. In some ways, the ordering of the lives of men could be preordained. This explains why, with the tenuous socio-economic hardship faced by many people around the world, most especially in Nigeria, since this is the focus of my discussion, there is an increase in mental health issues that extant laws lack the capacity to adequately solve. Understanding mental health. The mental well-being of an individual within a family influences negatively or positively the collective safety of the community. Mental stability manifests itself in a stable individual who is able to relate, emote, and contribute in every way to the collective goal of society he or she lives in. The Yorubas say, they have a saying that, "Tí ara lé ẹ̀ bá ń jọpọ̀lọ́ lọ́sàn, tó o bá bá wí, tó bá dalẹ̀ ẹ̀yin méjèèjì lẹ́ẹ̀ ní sùn." Which means if you watch your family members eating a toad in the daytime, when night falls, both of you will not sleep. A mentally stable person is one who has keen awareness of his place within the immediate extended family and community and has the presence of mind to contribute meaningfully towards its sustainability to make it a better place. United Nations Organization and Mental Health. At the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York on 23rd of September 2023, the WHO urged all leaders to focus on mental health issues as the world faces a myriad of social, economic, and health challenges following COVID-19 pandemic. Nigeria in May of 2023 focused on mental health issues amongst Nigerians. Our leaders and medical practitioners have often focused on resolving mental health in the orthodox Western way, ignoring our traditional African methodology of healing people who suffer from mental health challenges. Mental illness is a disease of the brain that is characterized by clinically significant disturbance in the individual's cognition, emotional regulations, or behavior. It is usually associated with distress or impairment in important areas of functioning. There are more than 200 classified mental health diseases, ranging from the more commonly known ones like clinical depression, where there's a constant feeling of sadness, lack of interest in the pleasures previously enjoyed, poor concentration, sleeplessness, and so on. Research has shown, however, that most Nigerians prefer to go to traditional mental health healers rather than the orthodox psychiatric hospitals, regardless of their socioeconomic class. Among those who turn to traditional methods of healing are the Yoruba people of southwestern Nigeria. I am aware, however, that other ethnic groups do likewise. Even though the Yoruba, along with their culture and philosophy and healing methods, are found in Togo, Benin Republic, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Yorubas are also dispersed in Brazil, Haiti, Cuba, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, USA, and the West Indies, through the migration as a result of the 18th century slave trade. In recent times, Yorubas are found in all parts of the world as a result of the economic immigration from Nigeria known as Japa. The Yoruba are one of the most researched single ethno-religious groups in Africa. Mythologically, the Yorubas have their origin in the present-day Ile-Ife. The Oduduwa is believed to be the son of Olodumare. The king in Ile-Ife is called the Oni, the spiritual head of the Yoruba worldwide. In 2017, I decided to research the traditional method of healing the mentally ill among the Yoruba people to get a better understanding of the philosophical leaning underpinning mental health issues and the way legislation can be used to incorporate traditional methods of healing the mentally ill. A friend had a son with mental health that a renowned psychiatric hospital could not heal. So she turned to the traditional method. In about 2 years, the young man was well enough to go back into society and lead an independent and meaningful life. With the help of a clergyman, who was knowledgeable in Yoruba tradition, Venerable Ademola Odunlade, we contacted a few traditional mental health healers in the southwest part of Nigeria. All of them, Baba Inanjo in Osun State was open, willing, and ready to let me into the world of the Yoruba traditional methods of healing the mentally ill. In our several visits to Baba Inanjo, I discovered that the core of the Yoruba healing method is entwined in the philosophy and epistemology and spirituality of the people themselves, as envisaged by their progenitor, Oduduwa. Without highfalutin Western clinical terminologies, Baba Inanjo explained to me the Yoruba philosophy of healing the mentally ill. Everyone came to this world through Olodumare, God, with their own ori, for want of a better word, karma, or their spirituality. There are three elements of every human being, consisting of the spirit, emi, the soul, okan, and the body, ara. All three are from Olodumare, God. However, disharmony in any of the three elements could lead to physical or mental ill health. Laws engagement with mental health treatment among the Yorubas. Therefore, mental ill health is caused by disharmony in the spirit world, emi. To heal the mentally ill, it is necessary to heal and maintain a balance amongst all the three, appealing to his ori for his core existence. This is done through supplications and prayers to give understanding to the one who seeks it. However, he explained that some people have come to the world with preordained destinies, which included mental health. This predestined mental health cannot be cured because it goes to the core of their existence. That is, their karma has ordained it to be so. Other ill health was self-inflicted through drug abuse or even through evil brought on oneself. These ones could be cured by appealing to his ori to show them what must be done. Remedies adopted by the traditional mental health healers consisted of pharmacological, using herbs, and the non-pharmacological, using counseling and psychotherapy. This is Baba Inanjo in his farm when I went to visit him in the bush. And this is me interviewing him and some of his apprentices in this environment where he lived. We were there for several days. The traditional and orthodox treatment of the mentally ill. Baba Inanjo's non-scientific analysis has been corroborated by scientific research carried out by Agara et al., which showed that in a study in Nigeria, which included samples from spiritual healers, spiritual treatment included use of water, 66.7%, biblical verses, 66.7%, fasting and prayer, 96.7%, counseling, 90%, beating, 40%, and occupational therapy, 13.3%. The Mental Health Act. Under the Moribund Lunacy Act of 1958, a person who attempted suicide but failed to achieve his aim was punished for not dying. With the economic hardship Nigerians are facing and the number of suicide attempts as a result, we can only imagine the number of people behind bars. Finally, the Nigerian government passed the Mental Health Act in 2023, which seeks to protect people with mental health illnesses from all forms of abuse, violence, and torture. It empowers and advocates for the right to access social services such as healthcare, education, employment, and housing. However, does the act go far enough? Traditional mental health healers offer about 80% of the healthcare in Nigeria. They provide the therapy that is tandem with the cultural belief. Research has shown that drug abuse is the single most common cause of mental illness amongst our young adults in Nigeria. Orthodox medicine focuses essentially on the physical through drug that sedates. I am advocating a holistic approach to mental health healing through the incorporation of traditional healthcare healers into a psychiatric system of curing the mentally ill, which can only give deeper understanding of mental health issues and cure. Epilepsy, marriage, and loss engagement with the other room. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, did you know that law sneaked into the affairs of the other room by preventing a couple getting married or, if married, who seek for annulment of their marriage or divorce if one of the spouses is prone to epileptic fits? Let me tell you a true story. Ngozi and Abu were out with a group of other couples at the beach during the public holiday when suddenly Ngozi made a whoop sound, fell to the ground, and started to have uncontrollable seizures, which made every muscle of her body jerk uncontrollably. She was unconscious, foaming in the mouth, and her eyes were rolled back. Some friends milled around her, alarmed, uncomfortable, and at a loss of what to do. Some ran away. A few tried to pin her down to stop her body from jerking. Others tried to force her mouth open so as to thrust an object between her upper and lower lip. Abu stood by his wife, concerned, frightened, embarrassed, and helpless, not knowing what was happening to his wife. It took the intervention of Sholape, a medical doctor, to save the day. Sholape asked everybody to stand back, give her air, and not restrict her jerking. Let the seizures pass, she said. This scene was over in less than 5 minutes. Apart from the aches and pains over her body, Ngozi had no recollection of what happened. But she soon discovered how she had embarrassed herself from the pitiful looks, side comments, and awkward smiles of friends and passers-by. However, the social stigma remained for Ngozi and Abu. It was enough for Abu to consider separation or divorce. This represents a lack of understanding of epilepsy and mental illness by a large percentage of Nigeria's population. Epilepsy is not a mental health illness. In this case, Abu could legally seek to void his marriage in court and claim the marriage never existed on account of Ngozi's seizures. Section 5, subsection 1b of the Matrimonial Causes Act states, a marriage is voidable if at the time of its celebration, one of the parties was of unsound mind or a mental defective or subject to recurrent attacks of insanity or epilepsy. Furthermore, by virtue of section 5.2e of the MCA, epilepsy is classified along with the mental illness that justifies the voiding of a marriage. However, if the mental deficiency arose after the marriage, it will not void the marriage, but it will be a justifiable ground for divorce. The law states that unsoundness of mind does not have to be a complete idiocy. It is enough if it is a weakness of understanding. But by these provisions, the MCA is implicitly equating epilepsy with insanity. What is epilepsy? Epilepsy is a non-communicable disease of the brain that affects about 50 million people worldwide. Epilepsy seizures episodes are consequences of electrical discharges in a group of cells in the brain. It could happen in any part of the brain. The seizures could be from a brief second to prolonged convulsions. It is one of the oldest known conditions dating back to 4000 BC. It is only people with temporal lobe epilepsy who may encounter memory loss. Otherwise, early diagnosis of epilepsy allows a person to live a normal life, a normal healthy life, with proper medication. Epilepsy, therefore, cannot be put on the same pedestal as insanity. Law's engagement with the adolescent body. The adolescent years is a time of life when a person becomes aware of themselves, their needs to acquire education, knowledge, skills that make them become lifelong learners, to secure productive work, to make informed decisions, and to positively engage in their communities and transform the world around them. UNICEF states that this occurs around the age of 10 to 19 years. Law's engagement with the adolescent body too. In 1979, I did a collaborative study with other academics with funding by Ford Foundation on the rights of adolescents in Nigeria under the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child, the African Charter, and several regional and international laws and conventions. I looked at the impact of the criminal justice system by going to the juvenile courts to observe the proceedings of the court. I used documents of court proceedings in the family and juvenile courts and observations to address the inadequacies of the criminal justice system. I was able to highlight the sexual abuse of children, economic abuse of children, collusion of the investigating police officers in criminal matters of sexual abuse of adolescents. I discussed the intimidation of both the victims of sexual abuse and their families by the society, as well as the criminal justice system. I advocated that there must be a more practical way to protect the adolescent victims of sexual abuse through training of the officers who prosecute these matters in court, and the awareness that the adolescent victim should not be the ones stigmatized. Though, through advocacy, I was able to create awareness of society so that sexual abuse of children would and should not be tolerated under the Nigerian criminal justice system. Many of the recommendations I suggested at that time have since been inserted into the Child Rights Act. As children grow, they are totally dependent on adults, especially in the area of healthcare and decision-making. How then does the religious belief of a parent influence the healthcare choices of their children? Informed consent is central to the healthcare practices. A medical personnel who fails to give informed consent a medical personnel who fails to get an informed consent from his patient before treatment puts himself on the path of tortious liability and sanctions by the medical practitioner's body, which is registered. To what extent can parents direct the medical personnel to withhold or withdraw vital life-saving treatment, such as blood, from a child who is incapable of giving his own consent or treatment? What opinions and what options are available to the medical personnel in such instances? Aderibigbe and Okonkwo examined the withholding of treatment by parents through the case law by examining two landmark decisions of the Supreme Court of Nigeria and their implications for consent practices in relation to children in Nigeria. These were the cases of Tega Esabuno and another against Dr. Tunde Pawaya and Okeria Kuru and Tanko. In Esabuno's case, the mother, in agreement with her husband, sued on behalf of her son, the first appellant, challenged the defendant, Dr. Pawaya, and the hospital for trespassing on the body of their few weeks old son by administering blood transfusion without their consent in order to save his life. The child lived as a result, but the mother challenged Dr. Pawaya for disobeying her refusal of blood transfusion to her child based on her religious belief as a Jehovah's Witness. Dr. Pawaya used the instrument of court by invoking its inherent jurisdiction through a motion filed under Section 27, subsection 1 and 30 of the Children and Young Persons Law to the Chief Magistrate, who granted the order the same day to transfuse the child. The case reached the Supreme Court, where it was rightly decided that by virtue of the CRA Section 13, subsection 2, which provides that every government, parent, guardian, institution, service, agency, organization, or body responsible for the care of a child shall endeavor to provide for the child the best attainable state of health. It was in the interest of the child, who had no awareness of any religious belief, to have his best interest protected by the court. The doctor could therefore not be held criminally liable for saving the child's life. The culturally autonomous rights of parents over their children do not transcend to withholding of treatment in such instances. The law will come to save the life of the child above the parental belief of the parents. Section 30 of the Child Rights Act states, every government, parent, guardian, institution, service, agencies, or body responsible for the care of the child shall provide for the child's best attainable state of health. Law's engagement with the child's body. Children form 46% of Nigeria's over 180 million population, with female children forming about 46% of that. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child states, for the purposes of the present convention, a child means every human being below the age of 18 years, unless the law applicable to the child, the majority is attained earlier. In Aderibigbe's study of rape of the girl child, the author showed that the child victim is often the one most traumatized physically and mentally in rape cases. Majority of rape cases go undetected, especially since the rape is often with an older member of the child's family. The constitutional rape of the girl child. While Nigeria's Child Rights Act seeks to protect vulnerable child victims, the states in Nigeria needs to establish an office where members of the public can anonymously report rape cases. The Lagos state government should be commended for their effort in the reporting process of gender-based violence and abuse reporting. However, the Nigerian legislation has failed the girl child since the establishment of the Nigerian Constitution in 1999. Section 24, subsection 4b of the Nigerian Constitution states that any woman who is married shall be deemed to be of full age. Nigeria's Criminal Code by Section 357 and Penal Code Section 282 states that a man cannot be charged with marital rape once the marriage is subsisting and the wife has attained puberty. Sexual intercourse cannot amount to rape. A married girl child becomes a victim through the abject failure of law to protect her constitutionally. I advocate that this section of the Constitution must be amended. Legal engagement and the law's engagement with the aging body, women's menopausal body. Aging is a natural process of life that depicts wisdom, disappearance of youth, and a state of acceptance that one is not immortal. Between 1997 and 1998, under the auspices of the network, sponsored by the Ford Foundation, Aderibigbe, together with Olawoye and Olarinde, carried out a qualitative study in the states of Niger, Enugu, Kano, and rural Oyo. Our findings gave rise to a book titled Women and Menopause in Nigeria. Part of our findings is that very little is known about this stage of life because there's a culture of silence. Many women are dealing with menopausal symptoms that they were not prepared or given adequate knowledge about. Menopause occurs around the age of 50 and above. This stage of life is characterized by superstitions, low libido, physiological and biological changes in the body. There's a general lack of understanding, which often leads to women seeking unorthodox forms of treatment. There's a dearth of social, legal, and socio-cultural empirical study in this stage of life in Nigeria. There's a lack of social group for these older women too. With the current Japa syndrome, where children leave home for better opportunities outside the country, many women often face isolation and friction with spouses who do not understand the physiological and psychological changes to a woman's body. This led me to identify the correlation between divorce amongst couples of over 50 as a resultant effect of menopause. I advocate that there's a need for law to intervene when there's a divorce application by older couples through counseling and awareness of this stage of life. The Ministry of Women's Affairs at the federal, state, and local government levels must intentionally seek out older women to share their experiences, have medical experts take a look at them health-wise. The Lord himself said in the book of Isaiah, I will be your God throughout your lifetime until your hair is white with age. I made you, and I will care for you, and I will carry you along and save you. These are some of the. This is the research and some of my friends at that time, the researchers. Law's engagement with the male reproducing body. Between the year 2000 and 2005, a group of academics, again under the auspices of the network, the researchers consisted of a group of all of us, and we carried out 3 phases of qualitative studies consisting of focus group discussions, in-depth interviews, and observations in the rural and urban areas with purposefully selected people in the towns of the north, the east, and the western cities and villages in Nigeria. The funding was by John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. And the phase 1 of that research was titled Marriage, Husbandhood, and Fatherhood in Nigeria. Phase 2 looked at marriage and parenthood, focusing on men and their roles as husbands and fathers. This was titled Male Responsibility in Reproductive Health in Nigeria, an Eclectic Methodological Approach. The final phase, phase 3, is titled Sexuality and Sexual Behavior. It's focused on sexual-related issues and the roles of men and women within the family as well as Nigerian society. Law's engagement with the reproducing male body again. Modernization and social media interactions have dissolved the sacred bonds of male and female sexual awareness that existed traditionally. This has led to several types of sexually transmitted disease, HIV/AIDS, and sexual violence amongst premarital men and women. With the weakening of traditional and religious value restrictions on sexual activities among young adults, the recommendations made by the team are still relevant today. Educational institutions need to provide a program that does not focus on the sexualization of young men's and women's bodies, but on healthy interactions through learning new skills and healthy engagement of the growing adolescent intellect. Babcock University should be commended for the various programs that our students engage in, especially the weekly Babcock interdisciplinary seminars. These are some of the group of researchers. Women's womb hold the secret to the continuity of the human race. Without bearing and nurturing children, the human race will cease to exist for this reason. There has always been a quest to control the female reproducing body by society, legislation, and the women themselves. Between 2002 and 2006, I carried out a research on the social-legal perception of women's attitude to abortion. It is titled, "My Womb is Tired, a social-legal perspective of the reproductive autonomy of women in Southwest Nigeria with a focus on abortion." The focus of the research was on the attitude to reproductive choices. The study traced the historical foundation, legal and social-cultural attitude to women's sexuality and reproductive autonomy through the eyes of representative population sampling in Nigeria. It argued for a legal framework that gives women control of their reproduction through the amendment of the abortion law to meet the reproductive needs of contemporary women. In 2009, I did another study on the Yoruba traditional religion of southwestern Nigeria and childlessness. The paper that came out of it was titled Broken Calabashes, Yoruba Traditional Faith. It focused on the plight of childless women in traditional Yoruba society. It advocated for adoption and surrogacy as socio-cultural awareness of society in accepting alternative forms of motherhood, leadership, and reproductive health. Between 1999 and 2001, Aderibigbe and Ajala carried out a study under the auspices of the SSHRN, that is the network, titled Leadership and Reproductive Health. This is another empirical study that looked at the leadership as a social process in which one individual influences the behaviors of others without the use of threat or violence. A leader must be sensitive to the reproductive needs of women, especially giving adequate facilities for nursing mothers and paternity leave for fathers. The theme of the control of women and women's bodies is the focus of another research by Ajibade, Aderibigbe, Odunaike, and Adebayo, where the authors, through an empirical study, looked at the complex global problem of human trafficking. The authors advocate that awareness must be created among our youth to the dangers of human trafficking. The quest for knowledge, the chicken farmer, Sade, and my mobile. During my quest for knowledge, the chicken farmer was and is my advocate before his egbon. He pleaded my cause to go for a PhD. The end of year party of the Egbe Omonfe was always in our house. This Christmas of 2002, I was not there to play host. The second to the oldest member of the group called me in Kent on his mobile and mockingly said to me, "Nleo, awe, wọ́n ní ó fẹ́ lọ ka PhD. Ṣé kí ọ̀rẹ́ mi pẹ̀lú irun funfun orí ẹ̀ kó máa fi ẹ̀pọ̀n ẹ̀ dáná ní kitchen nítorí ó fẹ́ lọ ka PhD? Nlẹ́ o, àwé. Hello, friend. I learned you have gone to study for a PhD. Do you now expect my friend with his gray hairs to stroke the kitchen stove with his scrotum and cook for himself because you want to read for a PhD? I cannot accept that from any woman." Shell-shocked, huddled in my room, I cried my eyes out. Then my mobile phone rang, and it was the chicken farmer. "Ayame, mo kàn ní kí n ṣe hello sí ẹ ni. My wife, I just called to check on you." From the way I responded with my heaving up and down, he asked what was bothering me, and I narrated what happened. He then asked me if I had a bucket in my room. Answering that I did, he said, "Bring the bucket, put it in front of you. I want you to fill it with your tears." I certainly did try to fill the bucket with my tears. About 40 minutes later, the chicken farmer called me again and asked, "Did you fill the bucket with your tears?" Naturally, I used all the adjectives I knew to tell him he's a wicked and an uncaring man. When he knew I was tired, he said, "Olori, when you put your hands to the plow, you don't look back." Mr. President, Vice Chancellor, sir, this narration cannot be complete without me telling you that I lost my mobile a few days after I left Kent for London for my tri-monthly trip to my sister to buy foodstuff and to do my hair. In 2003, getting a phone in London was very expensive, and it had to be by part payment subscription. I expressed my loss with a poem titled My Mobile and Sade, reproduced below. I will not read everything, I'll just read some. Today, I lost my mobile. I was distraught without it. Emptiness descended upon me that transcended the materialistic article created by man. The day I lost my mobile, I also learned that Sade died at 38 of cancer of the brain. For her, the music had stopped, and so the pain. Before she left, Sade divested herself of the strain and all her worldly gains. Sade prepared the future of her two small children as best as she could. She placed them in her children's care. Long before she took her journey into the woods, she asked you to give them what she could not, as she walked towards you without fear. Sade held on to you and lived life as if tomorrow will always be there. She put her trust in you, and you did not despair. Sade went to church on Sunday and did all she could repair, and quietly crossed over to you, giving the world a decisive claim. Sade is lost to the world, and so is my mobile to me. Both have taught me a lesson on how I can be free to depend on no one and nothing else but thee. Lost engagement with the body and technology. In the ever-changing world where technology orders every aspect of human endeavor, data protection has been of primary importance. Within the hospital settings, the protection of the personal data is important to protect patients' privacy. Between 2016 and 2017, Aderibigbe and Shodipo did an empirical study on data protection of patients' records in Nigeria. The authors examined whether copyright subsisted in the medical records of patients, the medical personnel who created them, or the health facilities, or the health facilities owned the rights. They concluded that in the interest of copyright ownership, the copyright in medical record should be given to the healthcare facilities. Happily, on the 12th of June 2023, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, signed the Nigerian Data Protection Bill 2023 into law as Nigeria's Data Protection Act 2023, where some of the issues raised by the authors in 2017 are incorporated into that act. Other research carried out. I love empirical research and the discovery of law and its impact on the human body. I will mention just a few for others to see the kind of research I've carried out. Laws engagement with the body and technology, laws engagement with children and sexual abuse during COVID-19 pandemic, laws engagement and sexualization of women's bodies during wars and conflicts, laws engagement with the political body, and laws engagement with the truth. I will focus on laws engagement with the truth. There is a limit to laws interference with an autonomous, mentally aware person. Autonomy is the right to self-determination and self-awareness. This is the immutable truth passed down by us, by God, from the Garden of Eden, when God allowed Adam free will and the right to defend himself. Aderibigbe and Oke, in their paper titled Arriving at the Truth, Biblical Foundation of Evidential Law, edited by Dr. Ojunaike and Olubukola Olugasa, stated that truth, as its foundation in the Bible, this is the evidentiary foundation of truth in our legal system. Truth is deeply rooted in the Bible, and we continue to guide our ways of life, as seen in legislations all over the world, particularly in Nigeria. The Bible is replete with evidence of God's truth that serves as the foundation of laws, which guide us throughout the ages, as reflected at the national and international legislations that we use to steer the conduct of peoples in most Christian-based and common law jurisdictions. They concluded that mankind is intrinsically inseparable from its creator in every aspect of his life, nationally and internationally. Contribution to Babcock University. I will not be able to list everything. All I will say is I've been HOD 3 times, I've been PG coordinator for several years, and I've been members of several ad hoc committees. Contribution to other academic institutions. I've been Vice Dean of Osun State University, Head of Department. I've been a director in NISA for about 10 years, and I was the one who coordinated Needs 2, and so many others that time will not permit me to mention. Major contributions to knowledge. I have published over 52 articles and authored and co-authored 2 books. Have been an external examiner and reviewer and assessor for many professional applicants. And I've done so many reviews for Commonwealth Law Review. I cannot name everything because time will not permit me to do so. Acknowledgement. In my professional academic journey, God has been there all the way. He has been the one I called on at every stage of my life. To God alone do I give all honor, adoration, and glory. Permit me to honor my parents, Princess Abigail Mojirade Aroyeun, the daughter of His Royal Highness Kabiyesi Gbadamosi Adedapo Obulaje II, the Orogun of Ila. My mother passed away on February 9th this year. It seems surreal up till now. My father, Engineer Amos Adebisi Aroyeun, is also from the Royal House in Ire, but he's very humble about it. Together, they instilled in me very old Christian virtues that have been with me all my life. I wish to especially thank Chief Dr. Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the chicken farmer. May the Lord continue to keep you and bless you. Let me also specially appreciate the administration of Babcock University, who have given me this platform and opportunity to present this inaugural lecture under the purposeful, dynamic, and leadership of Professor Ademola Stephen Tayo. Sir, you never got tired of my WhatsApp messages, even at different times of the night. I will not apologize. I will continue. I am greatly indebted to the immediate President, Vice Chancellor of Babcock University, Professor Kayode Makinde, who employed me and gave me several management and administrative positions immediately after I was employed. Professor Zach Olomojobi must have recommended him. Professor Zach Olomojobi was my mentor, and I still miss him up to today. I also wish to thank all the administrative and management staff of Babcock University, Professor Hianacho Okoro, and all the other members of their team. I acknowledge my siblings. I come from a closely knit family, and I will not mention all my siblings here, but I'm the oldest of all of them, so I used to get the beating. God has also blessed me with wonderful children and grandchildren. Adeniyi and Omotayo, Adetunji, Ayoade and Agnes, Adeniru and Okweyemi, my darling 2 daughters, Adeorike and Temilade, and Wole Michael and Sheun Olanrewaju. Our people say it is the biggest tree in the forest that one must cut last. However, I'm not going to cut this tree. I'm going to eulogize him. My marriage and the big age difference between us is a case study of love, respect, perseverance, and a strong faith in God. From that meeting on Sunday morning, some 43 years ago, he mesmerized me with the sharpness of his mind, his intellect and wisdom. Our revered father, who is also his grandson, His Imperial Majesty Obadeye Ogunwusi II, Ojaja II, calls him the lion of the tribe of Giesi, the grandson of the warrior king of Ife, Ologbela I. Your knowledge of the world, people, and places is amazing. You swept me off my feet with classical music of Ludwig van Beethoven, Sebastian Bach, and crooners like Nat King Cole, Barry White, Ebenezer Obey, and even Fela. His Royal Majesty, His Royal Highness, Prince Adeyemi Adekunle Aderibigbe Ologbenla, the head of the GSC Royal House of Ile-Ife. I met him on a Sunday morning, and I encapsulated the essence of who he is in a poem I wrote for him on his 70th birthday, reproduced below. I will not read everything, I will just read some. One Sunday morning, just as the year was dawning, Jesus gave me a friend. Through the years and all my fears, he walked and talked with us, revealing the generosity of hope. He was always just. We, in turn, kept him in our trust. My wish for you on this day, as I kneel down and pray, is that you will forever remain and stay my Sunday morning friend. That he who gave you to me for his own reason will let you see, touch, taste, and feel, through each changing season, the perfume of our garden. On the wings of his angels may we ponder and discover the beauty of tomorrow with wonder. Thank you. Mr. President, Vice Chancellor, sir, on a lighter note, I believe I'm the first Queen of Ile-Ife, Princess of Ila-Orangun and Ire in Osun State, to present an inaugural lecture and attain professorial cadre, and to do a PhD in medical law in the University of Kent. It is simply God all the way. Next slide. Mr. President, Vice Chancellor, sir, I hope that I have shown through this lecture that law is the fabric that threads and propels society, that law can engage with different aspects of the human body and shape the fabric of our being. I have shown that it is possible to intertwine empirical research with law to come up with realistic legislative recommendations through the different studies I have done in the last 40 years. I believe it is important that Nigeria's National Assembly take the pain to consult the ivory towers when legislative amendments are proposed before passing them into law. We, the eggheads, do the research. Our Creator said to us in Exodus 23:25, "You shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless you, bless your bread and water, and he will take sickness away from you amongst you." Proverbs 10:13 says, "On the lips of him who has understanding, wisdom is found, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks sense." Mr. President, Vice Chancellor, sir, Babcock University community, all invited guests present, thank you for spending your time with me.
Thank you very much. Let us have a seat. Your Excellency, the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Okikiola Aremu Obasanjo, CFR. The alumnus of Babcock University and the chicken farmer. We want to welcome you to your university once again. Gentlemen and ladies, you will all agree with me that our inaugural lecturer of today is not only a lawyer, a poet, and combines so many attributes. Let's give her a round of applause once again. She has successfully convinced us this afternoon that law do engage with the human body. And we want to thank you very much for that wonderful job. Permit me to also recognize someone that I respect so well. I'm seeing Emeritus Professor Isaac Agbede and Dr. Agbede. God bless you. He has been a great mentor to our School of Law, and we're glad that you're here with us today. And now, by the power invested in me as the Vice Chancellor of this great university, I hereby officially admit you, Professor Titilayo Oyenihun, Aderibigbe, to the professorial seat as Professor of Medical Law of Babcock University. With his rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Congratulations, Prof. As you all know, inaugural lecture is usually a very solemn exercise world over, and we do not want to depart from that. But I want to use the privilege of being the chairman to do something which will deviate a little bit from how we used to know it. I'm aware that His Excellency drove from the plane and without getting home, he came directly here. I want to thank you very much for that honor. So, we want to first of all start with the darling husband of our Prof. I've heard so much about you. We've met each other at close range, but only a few times. And for giving her the wings to fly, we just must recognize that. Thank you very much, sir. So I want to respectfully invite you to come forward, sir, so that you will take a picture. Okay, I think I want the daughters to come, please, and the sons to please come forward to represent Dad. Let's give them a round of applause, I think. Thank you very much. What we do is that we take virtually all the pictures outside. We have a place specially designated for pictures, but there are some that we are going to call. Baba, he cannot climb. He cannot climb. Let's give a round of applause. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni sá, a fẹ́ ya picture pẹ̀lú yìí. Ẹ ṣé gan ni sá. Àmì o, àmì o. Okay, please, you can. Okay. So the photographers, please do that quickly. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause as they exit. One more thing before we close this exercise. You know, it's always said that teachers' reward is in heaven, but sometimes we need to recognize our teachers. I'm aware that one of the teachers of Professor Aderibigbe is here with us today. Professor Ademola Popola. This is inaugural lecture. Please, Professor Ademola Popola, please could you come to just, it's a special request for the inaugural lecturer of today. All other people will have to do this outside. Professor Ademola Popola, as well as the member of the inaugural committee, can join so that we can have a time with her. Member of the inaugural committee and the principal officers, quickly, and then we'll be done. I think the HOD, please join. Thank you very much. We want to thank God for His Excellency. We will have asked you to come to speak, but for those in academic here, the inaugural lecture has the day. That's why he's the only one with cap. And it's going to be anticlimax to ask you to come and talk, even if you are saying no. So thank you very much for bearing that with us. I finished my case. I want to call the MC to round up the program. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Vice Chancellor, Babcock University, please permit me to invite to give the closing prayer the head of department of the inaugural lecturer, Professor Olubukola Olugasa.
Shall we pray, please? Ancient of days, we thank you very much because you made this day possible. Thank you, King of Kings, for your faithfulness and kindness unto us all in Babcock University. Father, we appreciate you for the inaugural lecture of today. We bless your name for that which you have spoken to us through it. Thank you, Lord, because you are the author of life, and our bodies belong to you. Father, we thank you for all that you have made possible. May your name alone be glorified. Father, as we depart from here today, we commit each and every one of us into your hands. That, Lord God Almighty, your grace and mercy shall continually abide with us in the name of Jesus. Thank you, precious Father, for the other little things that we shall be doing even after this program. They shall be according to your own direction in the name of Jesus. Thank you, precious Father, as you grant us journeying mercies to our respective places at the end of it all. Let your name alone be glorified, Father. In Jesus' precious name we have prayed. Amen.
Thank you very much. Please, I'd like to announce that there is refreshment for our very distinguished guests at the Babcock University Guest House immediately after the photo session outside. Thank you. Please, shall we stand for recession? And recession is in the reverse order that we came in. Please, can we have the recessional music? Please, I'd like to invite the deans of schools here for a media luncheon with journalists on Sunday, the 17th of this month at the Babcock University Guest House at 1 p.m.